Drawing Lesson 16, Depicting Aerial Perspective with Line. So perspective is the study of how the eye perceives objects receding in space. Aerial perspective, also known as atmospheric perspective in particular, is the expression of space as articulated by gradation of color and value. In line drawing, the illusion of aerial perspective can be created by varying line weight, which we touched on last week. An artist recently brought me a painting to critique. She was frustrated with the outcome and unsure what was going wrong. The drawing was technically correct, indeed, it was copied from a photograph, but something felt inaccurate. It took me a minute or two to find the problem. Instead of allowing the main subject to be surrounded by atmosphere, the artist had rendered the scenery in the background as dark, crisp, and colorful as the central figures in the foreground. Our eyes simply just do not see that way. We need a diminution of intensity on all accounts, in value, line, and color, in order for things to appear to recede. The sense of atmospheric perspective in line is created when the lines decrease in contrast as they go back in space. Architecture affords endless opportunities for sketching. Notice how this particular groin vaulted ceiling offers a unique opportunity to capture the depth of space with line. Notice how the same line weight in both cups creates a competition for the focal point. The back one recedes because of its placement, but it threatens to attach itself to the first cup. This drawing has a clear visual hierarchy. The front cup moves forward and the back one recedes because of the difference in line weight. Let's examine this drawing to determine the tools the artist used to help us read the image. The lines in the drawing grow lighter as they move farther away from the viewer. The artist concentrated the darkest value notes in the head and neck, showing us that this area is his principal focal point. The value of the lines in his shirt and pants are not as dark as the outside of his coat, so we understand that these areas are set back. The city behind the gentleman is considerably lighter than the figure, which enhances its appearance of being farther away. The artist also minimized the size of the buildings, which establishes distance between the subject and the setting. Aerial perspective causes objects to lose contrast in color and value as they recede. Our eye is led to the darkest, most finished part of the piece before moving throughout the drawing. In summary, Ingres consciously used artistic conventions to produce a coherent and lovely work of art. As viewers, we can delve into the piece and explore it, not only without any confusion, but with pleasure. When you only have a few ingredients, as you do in drawing, it's important for each one to be used to its fullest. In this drawing, Ingres used every tool at his disposal to the utmost. Rhythmic line drawing. The natural forms found in plants are a wonderful resource for the artist. The rhythms of the leaves in relation to the branches, of the branches in relation to the trees, create a visual essay in theme and variation. Even among the regular intervals, surprising differences abound, often unlike anything we could imagine. Because leaves do not follow familiar and easily stylized shapes, they lend themselves to a detached kind of observation. This exercise serves two useful goals. First, it will help you learn how to create cautiously controlled curves, similar to those found on the human body. And second, it will allow you to carefully study negative shapes and contour lines, which are partially responsible for the beauty of natural forms. So at this point, I want you to get something that you can draw, preferably some type of plant, and you're going to set up your drawing. You're going to do this along with me, and that's going to be the assignment that you turn in. So place your branch in a comfortable viewing distance in front of you. If it's delicate, you might want to place it in a small vase. You might want to add a white or light gray piece of paper as the backdrop. Sorry, I don't know why I said that so strangely. You might want to add a white or light gray piece of paper as a backdrop of the still life if your background feels distracting. For this drawing, you do not need any particular lighting unless you find that it's hard to clearly see the shapes of your leaves. Once you have that set up, you're going to create your branch drawing. Your drawing should be a lighthearted exploration of edges in space. Most likely, no one who looks at it will know if it bears a likeness to the actual plant. You're not doing a botanical illustration. Nevertheless, the drawing must capture a sense of felt accuracy. It must look and feel true. In other words, the drawing must capture the quirky feeling of life. With this lesson, do not try to create an imaginative masterpiece, simply strive for accuracy. So stage 1, you're going to find the directional lines. Begin by identifying a single line that can capture the overarching movement of your plant. With my branch, a strong diagonal served as a better guide than any vertical or horizontal marker. Next, indicate where the object will rest on the ground plane. This will help define the space and designate the shadow. Then indicate the top and bottom of your specimen and mark any other defining angles. For instance, in my branch, the longest line rests along the direction of the leaves. Capture the dominant movement of your specimen, then mark the top and bottom to locate the overall size. For stage 2, subdividing the first lines. Next, subdivide the simplified directional lines into something that more closely resembles your setup. At this point, I found the angle changes along the stem and indicated the position of the apples and leaves. Keep your lines straight and open. Do not enclose your objects with a perfect contour line. Instead, use straight lines to generate measurable increments that you can use to cross-compare. The open gaps in your shape should enable you to move things around easily because nothing is yet fixed. Everything can shift slightly if necessary. The angularity of your lines, the openness of your contour, and the lightness of your touch should create an effective block-in. For stage 3, locate the shadow shapes. It's now time to push your highly abstracted drawing to the next phase, one defined by more cohesive shapes. In my drawing, the shapes begin to resemble rudimentary branches, leaves, and apples. Start to include shadow shapes into the structure of your drawing. As you work, however, continue to leave your lines generally angular and open rather than lock into something that may not be perfectly accurate. Tone the shadow shapes very lightly to help visually separate them from the light areas. This process, called mapping, will enable you to cross-compare shapes rather than lines, thereby pushing your drawing subtly toward greater accuracy. You'll be ready to move on to the next stage when you have achieved a broad likeness. Stage 4, finding smaller forms. So identify a single line in your drawing and articulate the smaller staccato angle changes and shadow shapes. You will soon notice that the angles change many times along a length that was once a single line direction. Repeat this process for the other lines. At this stage, continue to keep your shadow shapes large. Create a few darker moments, which will establish the position of future hard contour lines and serve to draw the eye. This process preserves a balance between lost and found edges even at this early stage. And for the last stage, stage 5, you're going to check the likeness. During this stage, you should lose any remaining reference to your initial structure lines. You will still feel the structure, yet the broad generic lines are absorbed into the likeness of your plant. Keep the shadow shapes fairly flat. Don't worry about light and shadow. A true contour drawing doesn't need tone. Simply stay focused on the quality and expression of your edges. Push the accuracy of the small lines and accents until it feels like you captured a sense of your specimen. Again, this lesson is not intended to generate a drawing defined by photographic accuracy, but rather artistic accuracy. Okay, so when I check the assignments that you turn in, I'm going to be looking to see that you did all 5 of these stages.